Hello everyone, Ashley with Amare. So, if you guys are listening on the Spotify, thank you for listening. If you are watching on Instagram, join us on the Spotify. If you don't have either of those or care to do either of those on the YouTube, that's it. Okay, so skinny BBLs. Skinny BBLs. This is not a new thing, first of all. It's a more popular thing now, but it's not a new thing. So I did a little live about this on Instagram 2 nights ago, and then I was bombarded with a crap ton of questions. So I'm going to elaborate. All right, so let's take the skinny part out of it and talk about a BBL. What is a BBL? It is a Brazilian butt lift or a fat transfer. So they liposuction the fat out of whatever area, your stomach, your arms, your thighs, your back, your waist, and then they put it into your gluteal area to fill you out and give you projection and shape and basically make your butt bigger, right? So let's talk about the lipo part of it. When you are doing a fat transfer, which is what a BBL is, it's transferring fat to one area. When you are doing a fat transfer, whether it be to the breasts or to the hips or something like that, there is a different way of harvesting the fat and doing the liposuction so that those fat cells are the most healthy they could possibly be and stick the easiest and best. So they lipo you out, and out with your fat comes some of the tumescence fluid. They put all of that fat in what's called a centrifuge, or like that thing where like they spin it and it separates the fat from the tumescence. They take the good healthy liquid gold, put it in like needles or a machine or whatever they're using to inject it, and then they inject it into the area that you want in a certain way to give you sculpting and projection and all of that, whether it be to the boobs or to your butt. Or sometimes they'll do fat transfer to the face, actually. I know I've seen that for like under eye and stuff like that. But anyway, we're talking about BBLs. So they take all that healthy fat that they've harvested and they place it into your BBL. Now, that liposuction process, again, there is a different kind of skill and a different kind of technique and all kinds of technical things, which we're not going to get into today, about how the fat is harvested. When you're getting regular liposuction done, they're just sucking it out and it goes away and it's done. When they're doing it for a BBL, there are different cannulas. I have a picture on my Instagram if you don't know what a cannula is. It's the tool, like the wand that they use to go inside of you and harvest the fat. There are different cannulas with different shapes and different sizes and different ways of scooping or cutting the fat to suction it out so that it doesn't damage the fat cells. So that's a little bit about that. When you're putting it in your BBL, normally you hear BBL and you think about this huge, big booty, right? That's not always the case. So for years, guys, I mean like forever, I've been doing this for 7 years. So for 7 years, I've seen non-ginormous BBLs. I've seen normal, contoured, healthy looking, like proportionate, simple, small, projection rounded BBLs. So it's not, when you talk about a BBL, it's not always just a big bodacious booty where they're like putting tons of fat transfer in. Sometimes it's just for sculpting and not volume, which are the two key things here. There is volume and projection, which is where you're making your butt like really big and stick out really big. And then there's shaping and sculpting, which is where you're just filling out the top of the glutes, the sides of the hips, and the bottom of the glutes right before your thigh, and maybe a little bit in the center to literally fill you out. It's not to make you ginormous. So this concept is not new. It just has a new name, which is now called a skinny BBL. Now, let's get into this. Why is it called a skinny BBL? Generally, people that get a skinny BBL have a lower BMI than normally people who would go get lipo. So it's for people who have not a lot of fat to take from, and they can't get or don't want or don't have the frame for or are not interested in a ginormous BBL. So it's called a skinny BBL because you're already on the skinnier side. You've just got a couple areas that are holding on to fat, and they suction those off and sculpt you out as much as they can, and then they go and project it and put it into your BBL area to fill out those areas that you're kind of lacking that projection in. So let's say you have like a square shape in the back. They will fill out, like I said, the top, the bottom, and the sides, and maybe a little bit in the back around your gluteal area to make you have nice rounded shape, but not so much sticking out behind you. Now again, we don't have a lot of fat to take from here. It's just a little bit. So it may be your arms, your stomach, and your thighs just to sculpt you and shape you like in those areas and take as much fat as we can to put into the BBL area. When you have a skinny BBL and you are choosing a surgeon, you need to choose a surgeon who understands the technique. I say this all the time. You need to choose a surgeon who understands how to properly put that fat in there so it gives you the best results. So it's high, like the same thing in the difference between how there are surgeons that do regular liposuction, where they'll just suck the fat out of you and lipo all over and be good and know like the basic techniques, versus a surgeon who is skilled in Vaser, or a surgeon who is skilled in high definition liposuction, lipoplasty, liposculpture, all that stuff. So different surgeons specialize in different things and have different trainings. So some surgeons are really, really good at doing like ab etching and getting you super defined and making you have that six pack and like really, really going in and getting everything and not just taking the fat out, but actually sculpting you. And then there are surgeons who can just, go in, shave off the fat on the sides, do a little bit of lipo, and that's kind of the extent of it. Whereas somebody who's trained in Vaser knows how to use the skin tightening element of a Vaser cannula. Somebody who's trained in high definition liposuction can give you that high definition that you're looking for of your shape. So it's very important when you're choosing a surgeon for a skinny BBL that you know this is something they do a lot, that they're experienced in it, that they know what they're doing. So we make sure that that little bit of precious liquid gold that you have is getting put into the right places to give you the best result that you want for the look that you're looking for. Whether that be you don't want hips and you just want it on the top or bottom, or you don't want it on the top or bottom, you just want hips. It depends on what you have already, what your shape is at already, and what you're looking for. A lot of people don't want anything that looks like they had work done. They just want to look like they went to the gym and got a booty. So when you're looking for a surgeon to do your skinny BBL, I know a lot of surgeons out there are promoting like double BBL, skinny BBL, all these different BBL things, right? All these different like contouring BBL stuff. So make sure that you have that conversation with them and you're like, okay, yes, I want a skinny BBL, but I don't want major hips. I want it more in the back or more on the top or more on the bottom. And a good skinny BBL surgeon will be able to show you what's going to be able to like fill you out and round you out the way that you want in the back. Because again, it's not about just putting the fat directly into the center of your butt and then you get a big butt. That's not how that's done. It's sculpting around the glutes with the liquid gold to give you that projection. So that's a little bit about the procedure. Let's talk about the recovery. Okay, so with a BBL, with any fat transfer, 6 to 8 weeks is what it takes for that fat to become its own little cells in there that make its own little home and have its little blood vessels and are like ready to live in there permanently, right? So 6 to 8 weeks. That timeline does not change with a skinny BBL. You still should not be sitting for 6 to 8 weeks putting pressure on your glutes, on your fat transfer for 6 to 8 weeks. That is still a thing. That doesn't change. Now, caveat to that, some doctors will say, oh, it's okay, you're fine, you can sit on your BBL, you can lay on your BBL. If your doctor says it's okay, follow your doctor's orders. But I am overcautious with your results because I've seen too many things go too wrong because doctors are undercautious with it. So we say do not sit on your BBL for 6 to 8 weeks because you already don't have a lot of fat in there. And as we know, not all the fat takes. Some doctors say it's 25%, some doctors say it's 10%, whatever the number may be. Not all of those fat cells are going to take. Not 100% of that fat transfer is going to stay in there in your skinny BBL. So you have already such a little amount of liquid gold fat transfer you're putting into that BBL. We don't want to do anything to put pressure on it. And this is where it goes wrong. This is where people get a skinny BBL and their doctors are like, oh, it wasn't a lot. You're not going to have that much pain. You could sit, you can lay, you can sleep. They do. And then they're like, well, I don't really think it worked because I don't see a difference because you already didn't have a lot in there to play with and some of it is not going to stay and then we're putting pressure on it, getting rid of more and more and more and more and more of it. So we want to be overly cautious with the skinny BBL. Even if your doctor says you can sit and lay on it like moderately, I still say no because I'm overly cautious with the pressure and all the fat cells in there. They're precious. Anyway, with that being said, you need a BBL pillow, not a boppy pillow, not that round fluffy thing that those boppy pillows are for a baby. You put a baby in a boppy pillow. If you're getting a skinny BBL, you absolutely do not want a BBL pillow that you're sliding off of, that is uncomfortable, that is a boppy pillow and not a brick and supportive. And if you guys don't know what kind of BBL pillow you need or the difference or why it matters, I have a video on it. Easiest way to find it, go to the online shop link in bio, click on the BBL pillow product and watch the video where I explain it to you and break it down and show you the pressure points and all that stuff and teach you how to properly sit on your BBL pillow. Even if it's not ours, rules still apply. But BBL pillow is a thing. You really, really, really have to be serious about that for 6 to 8 weeks. The better care we take with this skinny BBL, the more it's going to work. And again, it's already a skinny BBL. It's already only a little bit, so we want to make sure it works. So there's that part of it. Now your garment, yes, you need the same as a regular old BBL garment, but again, as I have this other video where I talk about the BBL garments with the holes in them, the BBL garments with just like the sheer like piece of fabric that's super stretchy, the BBL garments that have no BBL area or cut you off at the hips, they're like a bathing suit kind of thing. We need to get a proper BBL garment. You need to make sure that that thing has a capsule to hold your fat transfer, that it's not compressing too much, that it's not super, super loose like a Merino garment, that it's, you know, doing what it's supposed to. And again, if you don't know anything about the garments, I have several videos on those as far as the BBL ones and what's too tight and what's not working and all these different things. But the garment is super important. The BBL pillow is super important. Making sure that you're taking care of the BBL area is super important. So again, not putting pressure on it, not sitting on it, not laying on it, all that stuff. And then just waiting 6 to 8 weeks. Now, the swelling in your lipo areas, yeah, that you get manual lymphatic drainage for. You get your swelling down, you take care of your incisions, all of that stuff. And that's, again, because you're only having such little bit of lipo and little bit of fat transfer, you're not going to experience, like with a regular BBL, the massive amount of pressure, the massive amount of pain from that, because we're not doing a lot. So it may feel like your recovery only takes 4 weeks and you feel great afterwards and you're ready to get up and go and you feel amazing and you're like, yeah, this was a no-brainer, this feels great, I'm not in pain, I'm okay. Please, 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 still 6 to 8 weeks, be very, very careful because it's still in there. I know a lot of people who have come to me that I've seen who go to get their skinny BBL. They're in like a week, they're like, I don't have any pain, I don't have any fibrosis, I'm a little bit swollen, and it's all good. And then, and then, at week 4 or 5, because they started slipping up and having coffee every day from Starbucks and not eating right and not drinking enough water because they were feeling good and they thought, oh, it was only a little bit, so it's fine. And they started putting pressure on their BBL, or they were messing around and not wearing their garments. All the things start going wrong right at that 4 to 6 week mark where it's like super crucial and those fat cells are starting to get their own blood vessels. So do not slack on your recovery with a skinny BBL. Do not sleep on your recovery with a skinny BBL. Do not think that just because you feel good, you're done. You're not. 6 to 8 weeks. You need to be just as cautious the first day post-op when you're in pain and you're like, oh my God, this is like a whole thing. You need to keep that mentality and that energy up until 8 weeks to make sure that it's protected, because again, you have such a tiny amount in there. There is such a big margin for things to go wrong. So, BBL pillow. Make sure you're sleeping on your stomach, not your sides, not your back, flat on your stomach, face down, so that we're not putting any pressure on the BBL. Make sure you are drinking your water, a gallon of water a day. Make sure you're not messing around with your diet. Make sure that you are getting your manual lymphatic drainage sessions, because the last thing that you need, and again, guys, if you don't know what you should be getting as far as post-op massage, after any kind of surgery, it is not post-op massage. It is manual lymphatic drainage. It is not oil. It is not rubbing. It is not machines. It is not body contouring. It is not rollers. It is not lipocavitation. It is manual lymphatic drainage. Go watch the millions of other videos and podcasts I have where I say it over and over. But you still need that, because the last thing you want is not doing any MLD, the swelling sitting in there and becoming fibrosis, and then your BBL's healed at 8 weeks or 6 weeks, but the rest of you isn't. Because that's another thing I've seen, where your BBL is on track and on point, looks perfect at your 8 week mark, but your stomach is covered in fibrosis and still swollen. Your arms covered in fibrosis and still swollen. You can't lift your arms more than like 20 degrees. You can't get your arms up in the air. You're stuck and you're in pain and you're numb and all these things that aren't your skinny BBL. It's all the lipo stuff. So while you're waiting for your BBL, go get your MLD, drink your water, take care of yourself. Don't do one part of this and not the other. When you guys get a BBL, you think it's one surgery, it's one area. It's not. It's two things that are happening. The liposuction, taking the fat out, and then the BBL. So you need to treat this as two separate healing times. So lipo and BBL. That's how it works, even with the skinny BBL. So make sure we're doing all of those things all the way out until 8 weeks, especially because, like I said, it's only a little bit. We want to make sure we're really staying on top of it. And the last thing, again, I just want to restate, when you're going to get a skinny BBL, make sure you have a surgeon that knows the technique. Make sure you have a surgeon that understands the sculpting and understands that you are a smaller BMI and you don't have a lot to take from, and they need to kind of prioritize where you want your results. Because you'll go in and say, yeah, I just want it to be filled out, and they'll put it all in your hips and you'll be like, okay, I look great from the front, but when I stand to the side, I'm completely flat. There's nothing on the top or the bottom. There's no difference. So make sure you guys are being very clear with your skinny BBLs about where you want your fat and the actual look you're trying to get. Don't just go in and say, fill me out. Point out every single piece of your BBL area, of your gluteal region in the back that you want to be filled, that you want to be contoured, and make sure that you're addressing all of that with your surgeon so that nothing gets miscommunicated, and when you get to that skinny BBL part, they say, oh, I didn't have enough fat to do that. So guys, just start having that conversation. Like, skinny BBLs are something you need to be very, very careful with, because again, there's a very big margin for error because of how little fat we're taking out and how little fat we're putting into the BBL. So have those conversations. Don't sleep on your aftercare. Skinny BBL is still a fat transfer, still a BBL, still needs to be treated as such, and I hope this was helpful. If you guys have had a skinny BBL or a BBL or any other surgery and you want to ask me questions and you want to get in touch with me, or you need supplies, link is in the online shop for that, or you can set up a virtual with me, 732-841-0142. Happy Alex, our scheduling coordinator, will be happy to set you up with a virtual session. If you have questions, do not just shoot them in the DM. I have no idea who you are, and I have no idea your situation, and I cannot give you any advice. I will tell you to set up a virtual. So please call the office, 732-841-0142. Link is in the bio for the online shop for you guys to go watch the video on how to sit on your BBL pillows, and all of that stuff. And I hope that answered the rest of your questions. Bye, guys. Have a good rest of your night. I will talk to you soon.